Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Chua. I'm from New Relic. So actually just now we have already a very good summary here. I think the talk is done. Okay, but no worries. There's more details that I'll come to share in this short 25 minutes, right? So, right, as I was preparing, because usually for me when I prepare a presentation, I look at the theme of the topic. And this year, this is the theme, resilience to adaptability. And to me, the keyword to me that strikes a lot is resilience. Resilience to me, the next thing I think about is the Rocky movies. If anyone has seen the Rocky Balboa, it's not about how hard you can hit, but it's about how hard you can get hit, get back up, and move forward. So to me, that is the resilience part about that's very important in today's in terms of observability, in terms of running. So unless today you are running a construction business, you're building buildings, then maybe you want your things to be stable. You don't want to change, you don't want to move. But otherwise, if you are in like digital businesses, every day there's changes. Change is a constant. So it's about how we can withstand change, adapt to it, and become stronger. And when we are changing things, definitely things will break. You make a wrong code change, deploy to production, boom, fail, right? So it's no longer an if question, but a when question as to when things will fail, and then how you can quickly get back up and fix it. So in 2019, Microsoft, they actually published a paper called What Bugs Cause Production Cloud Incidents. And the key ones I've seen here, so let me test over here. So 31% were due to software faults. Simple things like array out of bounds, a null pointer exception. Because I was a programmer before, I've seen all these errors. 21% were due to data format bugs. Like, so when it's communicating between services, the wrong use, like expecting a string, but you pass a number, things like that. And the key thing that they found also is that most of these incidents can be resolved by rolling back the code change. Very simple. So that's why in terms of being resilient, getting ahead, right, there's certain action steps that today we probably would want to have. And the first thing is to have some measurement in place, put in measurements, because only when you have measure in place to look at your software, to look at your systems, then you can start to do like fine-tuning. If you want to improve, at least you can have an understanding of where you are currently and where you want to improve to. At least you have this measurement. And also, more importantly, is put this measurement as early as possible, right at the start of the development lifecycle, which in this case is like, for example, when you are deploying this code change, you want to measure this new piece of code. Is it already slowing things down? Is it because there are some never-ending while loops that's happening with this new piece of code change? And also things like using the wrong variable names and then you cause errors, null pointer exceptions. All these you want to capture as early as possible. Now this is, I've just been talking about technical side of things. The key thing as I go through, because I've been through all this while from engineering to program manager to now a technical account manager, business context is also very important. With business context, at least now this piece of code, not only just the technical person knows, the business person will also know, okay, what is the significance of this? If this thing breaks, if this thing goes down, what is the monetary loss that I'll have? So having this business context, putting in and build into this observation so that people will know how to prioritize if let's say there are problems, right? You want to solve it right now, stop all the developers, quickly solve this problem right now, or maybe you can just defer to the next week. We are running Agile Scrum. So with that, I cover the introduction. Resilience is key. A few things that are coming up is like, for example, how to get your data right. Because we already introduced the concept of observability to monitor how to improve. So we need to have some data. How we're going to get the right data? After that, then we see how you are using your data right now, because I believe some of us are already using monitoring tools, observability. And then we also share with you like how we go about in terms of problem solving and then how to sustain and grow so as to scale. Because today, it's not just it's not just one developer know how to solve a problem. We need to look in terms of how the entire organization can solve the problem as well. Right. So first thing, get your data right. I think about 20 years ago, at the start of 2000, I think most of us are still called programmers, or at least those who are still doing the coding stuff, you just call programmers. But with World Wide Web, especially when iPhone is birthed 2007, you start to have Android developer, you start to have iOS developer. So each of us separate into our own individual teams for the good intention of like, okay, we just want to focus on Android, we want to focus on backend, and we focus on DevOps. And during this process, we created our own silos because different teams, maybe sit at different levels. Right? So with these different silos, then a lot of things actually using the same purpose but different tools. We create this like same monitoring you want to monitor, but you actually one is using tool A, one is using tool B. And this is where we also, through our conversations with our customers, we observe that 94% right now are using 2 or more tools. And 82% of them, is still quite a big number, are using 4 or more. Now, I understand sometimes, because I've been there, I've been through that, sometimes certain software just don't have that capability. You need another software to have that monitoring in place. For example, logging, you need to have SIEM logs, like that. So we generally recommend just have 2. 2 tools should be sufficient. Of course, the best is just have one single tool, one single pane of glass, because we want to avoid the problem of tool fragmentation. And why do we want to avoid? A very simple answer is money. Okay, the more tools we have, the more money we need to spend to maintain them. And for those of us very brilliant ones who are using open source tools, it is good, okay, but it doesn't mean it's free. Okay? Open source does not mean it's free. Okay, why I say so? Because ultimately you need to spend time to maintain this open source tool. So then the question comes back to, from your career perspective, is maintaining this open source monitoring tool your career aspiration, or is it just a side quest? You just want to do some wow feature, but then you need to monitor as well. And this becomes a side quest that got you all worked up, and then you actually spend more time maintaining this observability tool than releasing the next big feature. Then the other thing is, when you have so many tools, right? When there's downtime, all the developers on board trying to find the root cause. But with so many tools, then they have to start to look at tool A, tool B, look at symptom A, symptom B from the different tools. So you spend more time trying to find where the problem is than to actually quickly solve the problem. And during this time, when the problem is still happening, the business is bleeding money, and then you have loss of trust, you have loss of opportunity, and all this. And then the engineers down there, the L1, L2 engineers all activated trying to solve there, then facing the pressures from the higher management. Why haven't we found the root cause? All these things is a very, I've been through that. I think some of us in the room have been in this kind of panic situation, war room situation. So it's really something that we will want to avoid as much as possible. And with having just one single tool, this will help streamline. Which is why in New Relic, our mission statement is data for all engineers. One single pane of monitoring for all the engineers, not just infra, not just DevOps, but for all, like Android developers, iOS developers, web. Yes. And why we can do that is because within our platform, we have 30+ capabilities built in, from APM, application monitoring, to mobile monitoring, serverless monitoring. It's all built in there. And on top of that, so it's not just monitoring. Today, you heard about observability in the sense that even right down to the coding tools on the VS Code, on the JetBrains IDE, we also have extensions built in so as to bring all this information right to the developer in the IDE to create this unified observability. So with that, this is where we know how to get the data. So basically now we cover the part about getting your data. If you have a lot of data, try to streamline it, cut it down to 2 tools if possible, or 1 tool. Now, we settle the data. We want to see how we are using the data right now. And this is when, in terms of observability maturity, comes into place. So from our talks, from our working alongside with our customers, we generally have 3 stages of maturity that we are looking at. Okay. The first one is reactive. So if today you are using your monitoring tool to understand your system, right? Like during your normal day, during your peak day, for example, sales day, like double 11, double 12, those kind of sales day, right? To see whether your system is okay or not okay, and then if it's not okay, find out where is the problem and quickly resolve it. if you are in this, if you find that your organization is behaving in this way, you are belonging now into the reactive stage of your maturity, right? Which a lot of us are. But then, if on top of this, you are actually now using data constantly to do optimization of your software, to optimize the amount of resources you're using. Like for example, if you find that your VM or your Kubernetes, your CPU usage actually is just 50%, and you use this data to downsize it so that reach an optimum, so that you are not over provisioning your VMs, right? Then you are in the proactive stage. On top of that comes the business side. I always talk tech, then also business. If you are using your monitoring tool to actually improve your business metric, improve, like for example, reduce your page bouncing rate, improve the number of purchases through the system on a daily basis, and then actively using all this data to streamline your user interface, then you are in the proactive maturity stage. A lot of customers think they are there. Okay, it's true that on a maybe weekly or bi-weekly basis, they are using some parts of it, but they are not actually there yet because proactive takes discipline. Sometimes we say we are, but actually really when we slack, we are not careful of, actually we to the reactive stage. We are not proactive. Proactive only when there's something big coming up. Now the final stage is where we call the holy grail stage. Okay? Something to aspire to, because not many people will reach there. It's a preventative stage where you are actually using data to prevent problems even before it happens. Set up auto-healing mechanisms based on the data you have seen, so that before the problem crops up, you have already spin up a new VM to reduce the CPU usage. So overall, these are the 3 stages that we are seeing. And of course, the preventative stage is the stage that we aspire to. But coming back to reality, when we talk to customers, one main thing that we always see them struggle is being able to solve unexpected problems. Why? Okay, so one thing to note is that it's unexpected problems. If it's problems, you already know, okay, you restart the server, that's it. Why unexpected problems nowadays is so hard to solve? Okay, I turn your attention to this thing here. Okay. So this is one of our customers, and this is just one of the post transaction that they have in their API, and it actually touches these many. Okay, based on the slide notes that I've seen, it's 158 services, 557 calls. Okay, of course, 557. Give it 600. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore when it's 500. Okay, and on top of that, this statistic is basically what the customer is experiencing. They have 4 cloud providers to maintain, 17,000 databases, microservice architecture. So there's 24,000 microservices. And they are also doing deployments constantly. Right? This actually is not too far-fetched. Maybe to certain of us, maybe we are still more on the monolithic side of things. Fine. But this is the future that we see organizations, especially cloud-native organizations, moving towards. There are definitely benefits of adopting the microservice architecture, but we also need to come to realize that solving problems is like, you watch the Netflix, the murder mystery recently, the Adam Sandler murder mystery movie. Your engineer is like trying to solve a mystery because they have to go through all the different transactions, the distributed traces, to pinpoint where is the error and pinpoint where's the bottleneck. So which is why problem solving for unexpected situations nowadays is very hard. Because how to start? You have so many, where do you even start with? So here in New Relic, there's a particular methodology that we would usually recommend to customers if they are at a loss. Of course, if you know what to do, it's fine. But you also come from a recommendation point of view. At least fact check with yourself. If your current methodology, is it based on pure intuition or experience, which will start to vary because your different engineers have different experience. But when you have a defined methodology, at least everyone has a baseline to start with. Okay, and to understand this, okay, I'll go through bit by bit. But what we can see is on the left side here, okay, this is the process. I'll go through step by step. Then over here are the different data sources that we're going through. Okay, So let me start. No worries. I won't. Okay. Now, first we'll start with the symptoms. Over here, we have all the customer complaints, the alerts. Okay. Now, when we have that symptom already, we'll want to look at which service is actually being impacted. Right? Sometimes it could be the immediate service, but sometimes it could be something further downstream. So it's really about finding which service is impacted. Then we look at, to ask ourselves, is there any deployment, any change during that time? Okay, if there's a change, okay, we know what to do. Roll back the change. Because that's the fastest. Because something has changed, then it causes a downtime, it causes a problem. Quickly roll back the change. So that at least you can reach an MTTR of like, within 15 minutes. Now, if you choose to carry on, you can start to look at the errors. Like where are the errors? We want to look at the logs to find out more. Then, if there are no errors, that's when you start to look at in terms of their local dependency, like your memory usage, your CPU usage. Is there anything wrong or not? If there's something wrong there, okay, at least there's something for you to follow. You can fix that already. But if you don't have, that's when the next part, your external dependency, which is your database and external core. Right. Usually why we say database, because database is very performance hogging. So usually we want to see after that from the external dependency point of view, anything wrong over there for your database or your external API call, external dependencies that you are calling on. Now, if you don't have, then it's really down to the transaction. And this is when, if you use New Relic, there's distributed tracing feature for you to trace down this transaction from one service to the other until where you can find that particular suspicious service that you want to look at. Okay, zoom in on that service, and then you are back to the original, the first slide where we start off with the service. And this process will repeat itself. So basically, this is where we have that repeatable process for you that we recommend to customers as a problem-solving methodology for everyone to adopt. At least have a baseline to start with. Yeah, I don't have 5 minutes. I'll quickly zoom through the last part. Because the last part is where we know how to get data. We know there's a methodology to solve problems, but how should we sustain and grow it? Okay. So one thing we definitely recommend is to at least have a framework, which is what we call as the Observability Center of Excellence. Building a team, right? Get them together to explore and adopt the tools. They will be the ones to actually spearhead and then propagate the information to the entire organization. Okay, so when they propagate the information to the entire organization, as a whole, you build up a skill, you build up the scale, and you build up the speed to quickly solve problems. Now, key stakeholders we want to usually recommend is you have the core team to do the heavy lifting work. Then you have your guild, which is more like your volunteers. These volunteers are a bit special. They don't belong to the core team because they belong to the individual agile teams, like your Android squad, your iOS squad. They are there because they will be the first to try out observability tool and then feedback to the core team if there are any complaints or if there are any challenges. Now, the last one is the counter, which is, like example, your director of engineering. They are there to give direction when there's differing views, or to solve problems when you need, like to propagate, to share the thought leadership with the other higher management. So all in all, this is a one-pager of our Center of Excellence model from New Relic, right? The right side, the green one, is where, for us, what we can come into is like we invite you to Future Stack events, our New Relic user group events, where you network, you learn with other customers who are using New Relic, and you also get to access the early access programs and the betas. Now, of course, then there's the live instructor-led courses, self-pay courses, and then you have your normal documentation and support ticket that we give you on a day-to-day basis as a base. So, okay, last slide. Okay, we touch on the why, the what, and the how. Why resilience and observability is important. What you need, the ingredients for great observability, and how to sustain and scale it with the methodology and our OCOE framework. Okay, and with that, I thank you everyone for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ken, and hope everyone took note of the observability maturity model. So any questions from the audience?
Because I find that logging and APM and all that, usually they're separated. Does New Relic provide a way that can have an end-to-end look between infrastructure and services and all that stuff? Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, so if I were to repeat your question, actually I hear two parts. The first part is whether our product is able to fuse APM logging together, because right now your concept is that they are separated. Is that correct? Sure. So actually, you'll be surprised to know, actually for us, we combine them together. Okay. Basically, once you have the infrastructure agent installed and the application agent installed, okay, in fact, we will be collecting both pieces of data and fuse them together within one dashboard. So we are doing our troubleshooting, like just now we are going through the distributed traces, right? When you are looking at one particular component, you can in fact find out whether at that component, are there any logs being generated for that part, and you can jump into that logs page, see what is happening.
Last question before we go for the break. Well, no questions. Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank
Great
you, everyone.
presentation.
Thank you.
And you guys have a booth, right? So people can come and see the demos.
Correct.
All
Come
the
to our
best.
booth after you've gotten your snacks. And the snacks is all there, right? At the same booth.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you.